Chapter 13. Iceboat Detectives. "We've found truck tracks on the shore of Sunfish Cove," Officer Cal said. "They match the ones we made the plaster cast of outside the trading post. Now," he continued, "we're trying to figure out why the truck went down to Pine Lake." "Do you suppose they unloaded our Santa Claus there?" Pete suggested. "That's what we thought at first," Cal replied. "But the question is, where did they take it, and in what?" "Boy, I wish I knew," Pete said. "Well, give us a ring if you learn anything more, will you please?" "I will, Pete." The other Hollisters were eager to hear what had happened. "There must be some good reason why the truck went down to the lake," he remarked thoughtfully. "Say, Ted, will you go somewhere with me after school tomorrow?" "Sure. Where?" "On Pine Lake." Pete would not tell any more of his plan. "I'll pick you up right after school, Ted," Pete told his cousin next morning. "Say," Jean spoke up, "what are we going to do all day with you and Pam in school, Pete?" When Pam heard this, her eyes sparkled. "Let's take Teddy and Jean to school with us," she exclaimed. Jean thought this would be great fun, but her brother said he had other plans. "I'm going to take Domingo out for a long ride," he announced. "I'll feed him first." Teddy went outside and fed the burro. Then the boy hitched him to the cart and drove to the back porch. "Taxi to Lincoln School," he called out, as all the children but Sue came out the kitchen door. "Goodness, can Domingo pull all of us?" Jean asked doubtfully. "Sure," Pete answered. "He can pull over 500 pounds. "How many pounds do we weigh altogether?" Ricky wanted to know. Pete figured quickly. Then he looked sheepish. "It comes to 650 pounds. I guess we'll have to take turns." Pam and Jean followed Holly into the cart, and they drove into the street. Upon reaching school, Teddy left them and then went on. He had gone only a block when smack! A hard snowball hit him on one arm. Teddy looked to his left, just in time to dodge a second ball thrown hard by a boy much bigger than he. Angry, Teddy jumped to the street and ran over to the youngster, who was making another ball by packing snow around a chunk of ice. "Cut that out!" Teddy yelled. "Want your face washed? Say, who are you anyway?" "Joey Brill. And I know who you are, Pete Hollister's cousin. Well, I don't like that smart guy, and I don't want any of his relatives around either." "You talk as if you own Shoreham," Teddy said in disgust. "You stop throwing snowballs or you'll be sorry." A wicked gleam came into Joey's eyes. He suddenly let another snowball whiz out of his hand, aiming it directly at Domingo. It hit the little donkey on the flank with a clunk. Giving a loud bray of pain, the burro jumped into the air, then tore down the street. Teddy waited only long enough to give Joey a punch that tumbled him over. Then he raced after the runaway animal. "Whoa, Domingo! Whoa!" Teddy yelled at the top of his lungs. The burro sped on, the cart rattling behind him, until he neared an intersection. As a car shot across in front of him, the poor animal became confused. In trying to turn, he upset the cart. The next instant, the shriek of a siren frightened him still more. Domingo ran across a lawn and between two trees that drew close together. Crunch! The burro had passed through nicely, but the overturned cart stuck fast. The wicker body, wedged between the trees, was crushed beyond repair. Teddy, rushing up, looked at the wreck in despair. By this time, several people had run to the scene. "Was anyone hurt?" a woman asked. "No, only the cart," Teddy sighed. "And it doesn't even belong to me," the boy added sadly. As he unhitched Domingo, Teddy patted the animal and said he would find him a new cart. Maybe Uncle John can help me find a new one, Teddy thought. He climbed on Domingo's back and rode to the trading post. Mr. Hollister was sorry to hear about the cart and immediately telephoned Mrs. Hunter, offering to pay for the wicker body she had loaned the youngsters. But she refused to accept any payment, saying she had given it to the children to play with. Furthermore, it was a very old one, and of no real use to her. Mr. Hollister made 2 other calls. Hanging up the phone, he smiled broadly. "It's all arranged, Teddy. We can buy a little wagon at a very reasonable price." He wrote a name and address on a paper and handed it to the boy. "Go there, Teddy, and get the wagon. It's a long, narrow one with facing side seats. I'll have Indy pick up the wrecked cart." Teddy set off, happy again. While all this was taking place, the school bell had rung. Pam and her cousin were in their cloakroom taking off their winter wrappings. "Today we're going to practice our class skit for the Christmas pageant," Pam said. "What country did your class choose?" Jean asked. "Italy." Pam explained that in Italy, Christmas customs are quite different from those in the United States. Instead of Christmas trees, the people decorate their homes with beautiful flowers. A presepio takes the place of the Christmas tree. What? Jean asked, never having heard the word before. Pam said that a presepio, found in most of the Italian homes, was a nativity scene, constructed of wood, cork, plaster, papier-mâché, and other materials. There are angels, flocks of sheep and cattle, and kings in fine, rich robes, Pam went on. The children in our class are going to act out the parts. Jean giggled. "You mean you're going to be a lamb or a cow?" she teased. "Not me," said Pam, laughing. Then she heaved a deep sigh. "What's the matter?" Jean asked. "There's only one thing wrong with our presepio," her cousin whispered, as they walked into the classroom. "Will Wilson's going to play the part of a king." "Don't you like him?" "He's always playing mean tricks, but we needed somebody tall to be the king." Pam introduced her cousin to Miss Nelson. "We're so glad to have you, dear," the teacher said. "When we rehearse our skit, perhaps you would like to help me prompt the actors." "I'd love to, Miss Nelson." Jean shared Pam's desk while the class studied arithmetic and geography. When the lessons were over, Miss Nelson said, "Now we'll practice the skit. Put on your costumes." The girls hurried into the cloakroom first to do this. Jean went along. She turned to Anne Hunter. "You make a beautiful angel, Anne. Your wings look so real." Anne said that her father had made them. He had bent 2 wires and had covered them with muslin. Then her mother had sewn on the feathers. As the girls came from the cloakroom, Will Wilson rushed toward them. "Gangway!" he shouted, pushing his way through. "What a rude boy," Jean said in disgust. The other young actors followed him. In a few minutes they returned. Will was wearing a king's costume. His robe was of red, green, blue, and white stripes, and the crown on his head sparkled with colored stones. "Now we'll start," Miss Nelson said, as she handed Jean several sheets of paper with the different parts written on them. The cardboard sheep and cattle were set in place. Then the live king, shepherds, and angels walked onto the scene. As they recited their lines, Jean followed each word closely. Anne Hunter moved forward, looking very stately, her face beaming. Will approached. Suddenly, he stormed towards the shepherds and angels. The smaller children scurried to get out of the way. As Anne Hunter started to back off, Will stuck his foot behind the little angel, throwing her off balance. Miss Nelson tried to catch the teetering girl, but Anne fell over backwards, landing on her wings. As the teacher helped her up, everyone noticed that the wings were twisted and out of shape. Tears came to the girl's eyes. "No great harm has been done to Anne's wings," Miss Nelson said. "They can easily be twisted back into shape. But Will, you shouldn't have done that. Apologize to Anne and we'll go on with the play." "I won't," the boy said defiantly, "because I didn't do anything." "If you won't apologize," Miss Nelson replied firmly, "we don't need you in our skit. It's obvious you can't behave like a king. Someone else will take your place." Somewhat crestfallen, Will removed his beautiful king's robe. It was given to a shorter but better-mannered boy, and the rehearsal continued. The children went through the entire skit, and when they had finished, Miss Nelson said, "I'm very proud of my actors and actresses." It was time for recess, and all the Hollisters met on the playground. They noticed Teddy running toward them. He was very excited and breathlessly reported the news about the broken wicker cart and Mr. Hollister's purchase of a new wagon. "Come down to the street and I'll show it to you," he said, leading the way. The others followed and exclaimed in delight. The cart was far better than the first one they'd had. "Crickets," Pete exclaimed admiringly. "Now we really own something. Maybe Joey did us a favor after all." Holly hugged Domingo. "Now you look extra beautiful," she told him. "Won't you be proud to deliver all those packages on Christmas Eve?" Domingo nodded his head, and the children giggled. A moment later, the school bell rang, and the pupils hurried back inside. For the rest of the day, Pete tried to pay strict attention to his studies, but every once in a while he would think of the sleuthing he was going to do after classes. As soon as the final bell rang, he hurried home. Teddy was waiting for him. "I'll tell Mother where we're going," Pete said. "Then she won't worry if we should get back late." He found Mrs. Hollister in the living room, helping Sue put on her ski suit. When Pete asked permission to take Teddy on a search for further clues, his mother gave her approval, but said, "Will you take Sue down to the lake with you? She can play around with her sled while you do your detective work." "All right, Mother." Sue took her big brother's hand and hurried out of the house with him. The two boys ran along the shore of the lake, pulling Sue and her sled behind them. As the cousins neared Sunfish Cove, Pete said, "Watch me have some fun with this little cricket." He pulled the sled onto the ice, ran very fast, and then spun it around. Whiz! The sled turned like a pinwheel, and Sue shrieked with joy. "Do it again," she pleaded. After spinning her several times more, Pete said, "Will you play alone for a while, Sue?" Pete explained to her that he and Teddy wanted to look for the missing Santa Claus and sleigh. "Goody," said Sue, and pulled her sled toward a group of small children playing nearby. "We'll be right back," Pete called out, as he led his cousin to the place where the truck tracks had been found. He now explained his suspicions to Teddy. "I think maybe the men who stole the outfit pulled the sleigh across the ice. There ought to be some tracks out on the lake." "But wouldn't the police have found them?" Teddy asked. "The men might have carried the sleigh part of the way to fool them," Pete suggested. Walking out on the ice directly in front of the spot where the tire prints had been found, the two boys searched 100 feet from shore. Finding none, they continued another 100 yards. Suddenly Pete exclaimed, "Look here, Teddy!" When his cousin reached him, Pete pointed to 2 ruts in the ice. "These were made by heavy sled runners," he said. "Come on, let's follow them." Pete glanced back to shore, where Sue was busy with her little playmates. At the same time, he spotted Dave Mead's ice boat skimming toward them. It stopped beside the two cousins amid a shower of ice chips from the break. "What are you doing out here without skates?" Dave shouted. When Pete explained the reason, Dave said, "Hop in! We can follow the ruts much faster in the boat." Pete introduced his cousin, and they took off. The wind billowed the sail, and soon they were streaking across Pine Lake. The sled tracks were now very clear. "Say, we're nearly to Blackberry Island," Pete said. "Maybe this is where the thieves took our stolen Santa." Dave came to a stop at the shore of the island. "Look, the tracks go right up onto the island," Teddy shouted. "Let's follow them," Pete suggested. Dave said he would have to stay with the boat and would wait for the boys. Pete and Teddy set off. Now they could see footprints as well as tracks in the snow. "We're on the trail!" Pete cried eagerly.